Hi, folks. Thank you again for coming on to Back to Basics for Season 3. Today, we're going to speak with Tracy Herbert. We're going to find out what she's all about. But there's one thing that she did tell me is she went through a struggle in her life due to health reasons. And what she did is she pivoted over to a positive way, and look where she is today. She has used health, fitness, and nutrition to be where she is today. So let's go and follow her. Let's go and listen to her and understand who Tracy is on Back to Basics. I'll see you there.
Hey, friends, it's Tracy Herbert. Thank you, Back to Basics, for inviting me over. Don't forget to subscribe and keep on listening. Remember, everything in life is going back to basics.
Hi, folks. Thank you again for coming on to Back to Basics, another week. We're almost done with Season 3, and, I'm definitely grateful for all the reviews and feedbacks that I'm getting from a lot of people, including my guests. So thank you again for all that support. Today, we're going to speak with Tracy, and we're going to find out what she's all about, just like what I said on my intro. But there's one thing that I did like about Tracy is she's very vibrant, positivity, and she has a story that we all want to hear and why, right? So that's the main question. So let's stop talking to me and let's go and speak with Tracy, who I invited her, and she's a great person to get in touch with. Tracy, thank you again for coming on to Back to Basics.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I love your podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tracy. So before we get into the business of my podcast and the show today, what does Back to Basic mean to you?
It all starts with the mind. Whatever you're going through, I like to say, we all have two choices. You can say I can't or I can, or I like to say, my 3M formula, which we're going to go into a little bit longer, a little bit later in the podcast,
Sure.
but it is life changing and it is simply getting back to the basics.
Mm. Is it as simple as that? Because I've been told by another guest of mine earlier before during the couple of weeks back on Back to Basic Mode Health, he mentioned that Back to Basic is not as easy as it is. What do you think?
I totally disagree with that, but
Okay.
because it's a mindset thing.
Yeah.
Once you get your mind in place, it's so much easier. But if we can kind of journey back into my life, 47 years ago, at the age of 17, I was told I was going to be dead in 20 years.
Mm,
I was told I was going to die with horrible complications. I
mm,
was going to never be able to have children. And I'm
mm,
a grandmother now. Not only did I'm a mother, but I'm a grandmother. And everything this doctor told me was, you're going to die. There's no hope. You're not going to be able to do anything. Luckily, my parents didn't listen to him, and they did send me to college because he told my parents, as a 17-year-old high school senior, don't waste your money. She's not going to live that long.
mm, mm,
And because of that, that's why I say I do think it's easy once you figure out what works best for you. And
mm.
so I have juvenile diabetes, which I will to the day I die, unless there's a cure, which is type 1 diabetes now, where you have to instantly start taking shots
Mm.
and insulin shots. And, you know, I was listening to all these doctors telling me this, and I wanted to ask these doctors questions. And my doctor, when he was telling me what was wrong with me in ICU, scared out of my mind, and he turned around and he walked away. And I had no hope.
Mm,
And because of that, that's why I think once you really start understanding whatever your setbacks are, age, diagnosis, business failure, once you really start understanding, then you can say, okay, yeah, this maybe isn't the best thing that ever happened to me in my life, but
mm,
what can I do to get around it?
mhm.
And a few months after I got out of the hospital, I went to the movie theater with all my friends, which what do you do when you go to the movie theater? You get, soft drinks, candy and, popcorn, all that stuff. And you're probably all smelling popcorn right now as I'm saying that. But I couldn't have anything because I'm on a very restricted diet.
Sure.
And so I asked the concession stand clerk for a cup, just a small little cup, so I could get a drink of water out of the drinking fountain. Now, y'all, this was way before diet soft drinks, way before bottled water. And she said no. And I started running out of the movie theater crying, screaming, "Why me? Why me?" And I really felt like my life was over.
Mm,
And I got home and I'm laying in bed and I just was sobbing as a 17-year-old kid, not knowing anything.
mm.
And I said, "Tracy, you have two choices. You can be bitter or you can be better. What are you going to choose?" And at that moment, my life changed. And I said, I'm going to be better. And so every day, even though we all have setbacks, I wake up and I say, it's going to be a great day. I'm going to be better. And, with health and wellness and fitness and everything else, we all struggle. But when I started really understanding what I needed to do, not just to feel better and to live longer, but I started realizing that, wait a minute, I'm onto something, because now we're going to get into my 3M formula if you're interested in it.
Sure, sure.
But
But
my,
Tracy,
um,
before I interrupt you, I'm sorry
yes,
about that.
no, please.
So let me ask you this, right?
Uh-huh. Hmm.
When you got the first diagnosis from the
Hmm.
doctor saying that
Hmm.
you're not going to do well, you're not going to live long, or what
Hmm.
have you, whatever the details are, we can
Hmm.
get to that later. How did you feel the very first time? Did you say, "Oh shit" moment,
Oh,
or
absolutely.
did you feel that there will be a little hope? What are
Hmm.
your thoughts on that?
I had zero hope. I was without hope, totally without hope, because everything I would ask, everything I would say, you can't. You can't. You're not going to live that long. You're going to have your legs amputated. Not you might, you will. You're going to go blind. You're never, within 10, 15 years, you're going to go blind. Within 20 years, you're going to die. I mean, I kept saying, what can I do? And every doctor would say, there's nothing you can do. So I was totally hopeless.
So then, what made you think that you had to take a second opinion?
Well, it's because actually everybody says, "Oh, that mean woman at the, concession stand at the movie theater." But she actually saved my life, because when she said, "No, you can't even get a drink of water," even though I was willing to pay for a cup, I walked out of that movie theater so distraught, but it changed my life. Everything we do in life, you have something happen and you think, oh, this is devastating. But when you really reframe your thinking, which is what I did, I didn't realize it at 17.
Mm,
As a kid, I didn't
of course.
realize it. But as now in my mid 60s, I think, wow, that was really a transformational moment in my life. And so people always ask me, for the last 47 years, how do you not eat donuts or ice cream or cake or whatever? And I say, I choose to live. I mean, I choose to live. So for me, it's easy not to eat those horrible foods that are doing so much damage to everybody. And so that's why when you change your mind and you
Mm,
start realizing, hey, wait a minute, I'm feeling good. I have more energy in my mid 60s than most of my friends do, even 20 years younger. It's because of what I do every day. Have the right mindset, which is my first M. Mouth, learn to eat to live, don't live to eat. And then move. We got to get off our chairs and move more.
mm.
And because of those things, it didn't happen overnight. This has been a long journey for
Of
me.
course, of course.
But
But
when, go ahead.
no, no, go. Please go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, but when you start seeing improvement and you start feeling better, you're like, man, I don't want to go back to that. I don't want to go back to it.
Mm. Let me ask you this:
Uh-huh.
when you found out this whole, um, how did you feel about the fitness? How did you feel about nutrition? How did you feel about mindset? How did that change you?
I was love to eat junk food. I was a kid. I mean, we all like junk food. I was always, of course, an athlete. I've always liked to do those kind of things. But what happened was, when I was out with all my friends and they were eating pizza, and again, I wasn't able to eat that. I could, but I chose to eat to live, not live to eat. I would visualize like rats or mice or something running over the pizza and using the bathroom on it. And
Mm.
so I started thinking, yeah, I don't even want that stuff. I can't believe y'all are eating it. And so that mindset really started making changes in my eating habits. I've always loved to exercise. I've always been a runner, bicyclist, tennis player, you name it, and I love it. So the exercise portion wasn't that hard for me because I started researching at a medical school library and again, a high school senior, but they let me go in because I was very quiet.
Sure.
This was before the internet. This was before all that. And I would start reading medical books about living healthy and diabetes and so forth. And I started seeing there was a trend, the exercise. And it doesn't matter. I mean, cancer, heart disease, losing weight, having more energy. It's all the same thing. It's eating healthy. We're not perfect. None of us are perfect, but exercising. And I don't mean going for a 500-mile run or 500-mile bicycle ride or hiking to the bottom of the Grand Canyon, but just little things every day that really make changes in your life.
So do you think, thank you again for that, Tracy. Do you actually think that the person who gave you guidance after that water at the theaters changed your life? Otherwise, if you did not meet her, you would not be here today.
I 100% agree 100% to that statement you just said. Yes.
Thank you. So, what about the fitness, health, and nutrition? Because obviously, you've mentioned about your cycling.
Hmm.
You've mentioned about your eating habits.
Hmm.
Obviously, you talked about your running. If those things were not there, do you think that you would have survived, or do you think where's your outlet going to be?
I would not be standing here talking to you today if I had not taken fitness into, and I don't mean, like I say, you don't have to go lift weights. You don't have to go work out at a gym all day long for 2 or 3 or 4 hours. It's
Right.
just simple things. But eating healthy, you don't have to do it 100% of the time. I do. I choose to do it, but most people don't. But
Mm,
those little things, I would not be here today. I can almost guarantee you if I
mm,
hadn't been doing these things. And the great thing is, I have no complications, which
good.
was guaranteed to happen to me, within 20 years. And this has been 47 years now. I've been playing this game of
Mm.
living with diabetes.
Of course, of course. So, Tracy, thank you again for that. What does it mean by 3,627 miles to you? What does that mean to you?
That means that I got on my bicycle every day and I went for a bike ride
Mm,
every single day because I when I went to ride my bike across the United States, I left San Francisco and ended up in New York City. I didn't say I'm going to be doing that far. Every day I'd get on my bike and I'd say, I'm going for a bike ride, just like we
mm,
did as kids. And
mm,
so that number is overwhelming. But when you break it down into small goals and small daily activities, it's not a big deal.
mm. So, if you do in increments and
Hmm.
divisions, okay,
Hmm.
how many miles is it per day, and for how long? What is that duration there?
Okay, mine was a little different because I did so many TV
Sure,
appearances and
sure.
spoke at camps and stuff like that. So every day it just depended on what was the next day's activity because I did it to celebrate my 40th anniversary of my diagnosis. But what it ended up being was providing hope and encouragement to people around the country. And so I could have done it in 6 weeks. I did it in 3 months. And then what happened was every day was a little different. So, for example, Wyoming, every 76 miles is a rest stop.
Mm,
So, every 76 miles, you stop and spend the night. A couple
mm,
of days I had, 110, 115 miles. Other days I do 30 or 40 because I
mm.
met somebody and I stopped and talked to that person.
Yeah, Tracy, thank you again for that. I've talked to you and during the pre-calls, and I've seen your work, stalked you nicely, and it seems like that you are very grateful and great positivity to other people, with the people who are having these issues. So thank you again for doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Let me ask you this about the 3M formula. Can you
Mhm.
explain that a little, what that means, if you don't mind?
Yes, absolutely. It all starts with the mind, like we mentioned. You have to have the right mindset. And sometimes it's just putting post it notes up in your house or your office saying, I can do it, or I'm amazing, or I've got a great smile, whatever that is for you.
Mm,
And then mouth is the second M. You have to learn to eat to live, don't live to eat. And when you start eating foods that help you and doesn't hurt you, you're going to be shocked at the energy you have. And then three, move. We have to get off our chairs and move more. And, that may be taking the stairs instead of the elevator or parking a car further away. It doesn't have to be riding your bicycle across the United States.
mm,
And if I can share with you an example of one of my role models now, when I was in Sacramento riding my bicycle across the United States,
mm,
I stopped for a light to turn green and I noticed a lady at a bus stop. And she was, I guess, probably in her mid 30s. And she was so sweet, but I just had that gut feeling to go talk to her.
mm,
So I got off my bike and I went over and I just said, "Hey, how are you doing?" And she said, "I wish I could ride my bike across the city." And I
mm,
said, "Well, actually, I'm going to New York City." But then she started sharing with me that she was so embarrassed because she couldn't even walk around the block to go home. She had to
mm,
wait for one of her family members to pick her up. And
mm,
she was morbidly obese, but one of the kindest ladies I'd ever met.
mm.
And so I started asking her, the health coach in me came out, and
Sure.
I started saying, "Could you walk next door?" "No, I can't." And I said, "Could you walk to the end of your driveway?" And just for a split second, she said, "I think I can." Yes, that's what I needed to hear. So I told her, I said, "Walk to your driveway and rest and walk back and just do that. And then go the next, when you can go a little further, go next door, go to the end of the street and walk home from the bus stop."
Mm,
I got a text message from this woman when I was riding into New York City.
mm,
Not only was she able to walk home from the bus stop, she had just signed up for her first 5K walk, which
mm,
is 3.1 miles.
mm,
And she was telling me, she said, not only was I never thinking I could do this, but she said, the weight is just coming off of me. And
mm,
I thought, she says, and I feel better about myself. I can get up and down off the bus easier. And, she did something every day. It didn't happen overnight, just
mm,
like my bike ride. But her life changed, not because of me, but because she chose to make that decision to
mm,
walk to the end of her driveway.
mm. Yeah, Tracy, thank you again for that. There's a lot of questions in my mind. If that's okay, can I ask you
Mhm.
this question? There are a lot of people who get ashamed of running or walking outside.
Mhm.
Okay, for whatever reason. Maybe I don't walk well. Maybe I'm huffing and puffing. Maybe I'm overweight. Maybe I'm skinny. Maybe I'm starting fresh. What do you think we should be telling these guys that who cares? Or what do you think the right words are going to be?
Who cares? I think you answered it perfect. Who cares? Do what works best for you. Don't worry about anybody else because you don't want to be shamed by, we see people all over social media that have been, airbrushed and everything in their great lives. You know what? If you can walk to the end of your driveway, if you can run even and just run a little bit and you're overweight, who cares? You're going to feel better about yourself and you're not going to worry about what other people say. I don't care what people think about me. I don't because I do what I want to do. And that's the way everybody should be. We got to be less critical of people. We're all on the same planet, rock, earth that we live on. And we
Mhm,
need to be kinder to each other. And I think because so many people now are so hateful and so they ashamed of themselves, forget what you look like, forget how you are, and just do it. And there's so many great inspirational videos and things out there of people who couldn't walk who are now walking, people who couldn't run who are now running. And if you need that little bit of inspiration that you don't want to see yourself doing, go online and watch something and just see how people's lives are transformed.
mm,
But quit worrying about what other people think.
Yeah, Tracy, thank you again for that, and thank you again for explaining that to people that it's okay to be scared. It's okay
Mhm.
that you're the right, in a funny way, I'm going to say that, everything is jiggling when you're running.
Yeah.
But the thing is that who actually cares? Because
Yep.
honestly, your health comes first, regardless of
Mhm.
whatever you look like. Is that right?
Yep. Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah, yeah,
Because without health, we have nothing.
that's right. I mean, I've been told many, many years that health is gold, and that's
Mhm.
just what it is. So,
Absolutely.
Tracy, we have started this new rapid fire round on season 3, and you're part of it. So, I want to play this game if that's okay with you.
100%. Let's go for it.
Awesome, awesome. So, the first word or the sentence is going to be life change.
Life change. Oh, that's great. Don't wait for some momentum moment. Get up right now and make one change and say, I can do this.
Okay,
Life changes. Life is always changing.
okay. Hope.
Hope. Without hope, we have nothing.
Hmm,
Don't ever lose hope.
hmm. Setback.
Setbacks happen every day, and don't let that setback keep you stuck in concrete. Start moving forward.
Okay. Nutrition.
Nutrition is important, but reading labels, if you eat processed food, stay away from processed foods as much as possible, but eat things that your grandparents or great grandparents used to eat, not what's in the store so much.
Okay. How about bitter versus better?
Oh, don't get stuck in bitterness. Always strive to be better. Find something every day to be better with whatever it is.
Okay. How about red pill versus blue pill?
Red pill because red says power. I'm always about power. Let's take the power.
Okay, awesome. How about celebration?
Celebration, without celebration, life's not worth living. Find something every day to celebrate.
Okay. How about cycling?
Cycling. Oh, get on your bicycle and go for a ride. It's nothing like, it's just like what we were when we were kids. When
Mm,
you get out there and let that bicycle go and have fun and laugh like we did as kids, best therapy in the world.
mhm. So, Tracy, it's going to be a tough question because it's not
Mhm.
an easy answer, also.
Okay.
The three M's that you just mentioned earlier,
Mhm.
if you really had to choose, which M would you choose?
Mind, because you have to have your mind to work with everything else. Your mind is the powerful tool that we have in our bodies. And when
Mm,
we can transform our mind to thinking better, not bitter, or I can't versus I can,
mm,
then you really start making changes.
mm. Okay, thank you. That was on hard. Uh,
Mhm.
Self care.
Self care, we have to take care of ourselves. And that may mean telling the kids, the family, the business, hey, I need to take a walk. I need to get out in nature. I need to go sit on the beach and just enjoy the nature of the waves going across the rocks. We have to take care of ourselves.
Okay. Who cares?
Who cares? Don't worry about what anybody cares, but what you think. And you are also a who. So make sure your mind, again, back to the mind, make sure you are what cares and not what other people care.
Okay. Inner versus outer.
Inner versus outer. Inner, when you're out, when I'm an extrovert, but when you get out and you're outer, I don't know, that's a tough question. That's a really tough one, but I'm thinking that, when you get out in the world and you smile or you tell somebody, "Hey, good job,"
Mm,
then you're spreading happiness. So I guess outer versus inner.
okay. If I know you mentioned the three M's and we just
Uh-huh.
talked about that. If you needed to add one more M, which one would it be?
Motivation.
Okay.
Motivation. So many people just need a little bit of motivation.
Mm, okay. And the last two is going to be Tracy is.
Tracy is passionate about providing hope to others.
Okay. And the last one is going to be back to basics.
Back to basics. It all starts with going back to the basics and just do what you know works best for you. We're all different. Find something that used to bring you happiness or something that helped you feel better and
Mm,
then do it. Just get back to the basics like we used to do when we were kids.
mm. Yeah, Tracy, thank you again for playing the rapid fire round. Hopefully, I didn't really challenge you enough, except the last one, I guess, right? So, Tracy, let me ask you this. I know you mentioned about nutrition. You
Mhm.
did talk about no processed food or zero processed food or even less processed food.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts about today's nutrition? Because it is tough because we're all into microwaves, we're all into processed food,
Mhm.
saving food during the
Mhm.
freezer and all that fun stuff. What are your thoughts on that? Because we're trying to save time too at the same time, right?
Exactly. And everybody's worried about finances and how do we pay for healthy food and things. But there's so many opportunities and it's so expensive to buy processed food, believe it or not.
Mm,
But what I like to tell people and what I do my own self is I chop up vegetables, things like, celery, cucumbers, whatever. And I break them up into several bags throughout the week,
mm,
carrots, things like that, broccoli. And then that's what I take with me when I'm out driving or out seeing people or doing different things. Because when we're tempted, is when we go into the gas station and buy something that's not as healthy for us.
Mm.
And when you go back again to the basics and do what your grandparents did or great grandparents did and eat the foods that come out of the ground, and even I'm not saying it's bad to eat meat or anything like that. What I'm saying is if it has a wrapper around it, it's really not a good idea to eat
Of course.
unless you have to. I mean,
Of course, of course. Thank you again, Tracy, for that. Let me ask you this. You mentioned about motivation, which is the fourth M that we talked
hmm
about, right?
hmm
Um, is there a book, a movie, a music that you listen to that it kind of motivates you to the next step of Tracy?
I love all kinds of music. I listen to all sorts of books on tape. I listen to motivational talks when I'm working out. I think the thing that probably, yeah, I think it's going to be the thing that really changed my thinking was Atomic Habits by James Cleary, I believe. Don't I may be wrong on that name. I think it's James Cleary,
Yes, yes.
Atomic Habits.
Okay.
That was a mind-boggling, life-changing moment when I read that book.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you again. I've read that several times, and you
Mhm.
are right.
Mm.
It is James Clear. So,
Okay.
let me ask you this: what is your morning routine and your evening routine, very briefly, if you don't mind?
Great. That's a great question. So, what I do is first thing in the morning, before I even get out of bed, I just thank God for another day of life. I'm here and thank you, God, for another day of life. And then I get up, I do have a cup of coffee and I do some inspirational reading. I do some Bible study. I do meditate and I pray. And then I go for a walk or run. Like this morning, I did a spin class. So I do something in the morning and I try to get outside and get a little bit of nature, just walking around or something just to get me going.
Mm,
Unless I have clients, which some mornings I have a 6 o'clock client call, that I'll need to take.
mm,
But that's what I typically do. In the evening is totally different. I get up between 4:30 and 5:30 every morning.
mm,
And usually at night, after we have dinner, we eat a very early dinner. Then we'll watch a little TV and then I'm usually asleep by 8:30 or 9 o'clock. We're pretty boring people here because I like to get up early and then just I don't watch the news like so many people do. I try to watch every evening before we turn off the TV a comedy because when we laugh, then we feel good about things and we feel so much better. And
mm,
then I always listen to something inspirational at night. It's kind of like a white noise for me and
mm.
it's just very quiet, but it just makes me, sometimes it's a breathing exercise. Sometimes it's some kind of a study or something, but it doesn't keep me engaged so I can fall asleep.
Yeah, thank you again for that, Tracy, and thank you again for sharing all these small nuggets throughout the episode. And I really, really enjoyed your company, and hopefully, you and I can be friends, or even offline, because it seems like you and I are on the same page when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to movement, when it comes to motivational. So, thank you again for all that. But before you leave today, Trace, do you have any last words to all my Back to Basic listeners and my viewers? And how was your journey on Back to Basics too? On top of that.
The I I have to say, whatever you're going through, whatever struggles, whatever setbacks, don't ever lose hope because without hope, we really have nothing. Find something, one little thing that you can have hope. It may be, hey, I got out of bed today. I have another breath, but always have hope. Don't let that stinking thinking deter you from keeping you from doing what you're supposed to be doing because we all have something to do in life. We need to be friends. We need to grow and spend time with each other. But most definitely, don't ever lose hope.
Yeah, Tracy, thank you again for being here, and thank you again for supporting me on this small podcast that I have here. And hopefully, you and I will connect again for a Tracy 2.0 version, and to get to know you even more than what we know today.
Well, thanks for having me. I love your podcast.
Thank you again. So, guys, we spoke with Tracy today, didn't we? And we talked about a lot of things. The first thing we talked about is motivating people. We talked about hope. I mean, there's few things. When a doctor actually tells you a bad news, do you take that bad news or do you flip it around and make it a good news? You know, there are doctors out there, there are bad news out there. We cannot avoid that. But how do you want to take that? That's one thing that you got to go and figure that out. And that's something that she does. She does reading, She listens to music, and definitely she listens to our podcast here. So that's motivating people. So listen as much as you can, meet people, network with people, and that's just what we usually do. Now, as usual, as always, here's a quote of today from Back to Basics, and hopefully Tracy will like this because it's a cycle quote. So here it is. The quote is, "You can't get good by staying at home. If you want to get fast, you have to go where the fast guys are." You know, if you want to be a cyclist, if you want to be a runner, if you want to be in a fast lane, this is what you got to do. You got to move, move, and move. Just by reading and getting to know Tracy, and people like Tracy. Now, as usual, as always, what do we always say at the end of the episode? Everything in life goes back to basics, and that's what we did today, guys. Guys, season 3 is almost over. Stay tuned, and we will be seeing you next week on Back to Basics. Hi, guys. Thank you again for tuning in to Back to Basics and listening to the excellent episode that we had today with our guest. You know, with your love and support, we do need you to at least rate our show, review our show, because it does make us stronger day by day, week by week, as I usually say on my episodes. And there are 3 things in this episode that it makes a hit for me, which is the content, the guest, and definitely the host. So guys, take care, God bless, and remember, everything in life goes back to basics, and that's what we did today, guys. Guys, take care, God bless, and see you next time on Back to Basics.